Well, hello and welcome to today's webinar titled Business and Production Intelligence for Can Manufacturers, Real-Time Data for Real-Time Decisions. My name is Dwayne Butcher, Director of Marketing here at Flexware Innovation. Let me introduce our two presenters today, Ashley Hooley and Steve Clayback. Ashley is a business development manager at Flexware, where she is responsible for fostering client relationships and addressing their digital transformation needs and some of their challenges with IT and OT products and solutions. She's been in and around the can manufacturing industry for nearly 5 years. Steve Clayback leads our Acumence product team at Flexware, overseeing the development and deployment of the business intelligence software designed specifically for can manufacturers. And Steve has worked with can manufacturers for approaching 8 years, I think you said, Steve. Just as an aside, both Ashley and Steve are going to be presenters at LATAM Can coming up in 2025. So if you are attending LATAM Can, you can look forward to meeting Ashley and Steve in person. So for now, Ashley, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you and let you take it away.
Yeah, I'll come off mute. Thanks, Dwayne. Appreciate the intro here, and nice to be online with you guys with my buddy Steve. I know we enjoy all these conversations that are specific to can making, and so as you guys are looking at implementing a digital transformation strategy or looking to get important data from your plant floor, we're trying to identify just some key features that are really important you'll want to evaluate when you're looking to implement a tool or choose a tool. And a lot of what we'll show you, what Steve's got prepared today too with the demo portion of this webinar, can show you how integrating with existing plant floor systems, how that will provide the data and what that might look like in a contextual fashion. So aside from integrating with your other ERP, MES, your PLC systems, it's important that whatever system you implement or you're leveraging gives you real-time data. You don't want to delay. We'll get into some details about that, but just having a clear picture of how your plant's doing is going to be really critical for you to be able to compete digitally. Furthermore, making sure that data, the way it's displayed, is in a really user-friendly, configurable fashion. You want it to match the way you currently work, the way your plant is laid out, so that it's intuitive. You want it to be something that you can easily modify and continue to build on as your plant grows. And so when we talk about highly configurable dashboards, alerting, and reporting tools, we can give you some examples of what that might look like. And the last key feature we wanted to highlight today is historical data. So similar to real time, being able to look back and not having to parse through a lot of different spreadsheets, having the data in a uniform fashion so that you can really dig in and do the analysis that you need to implement the right kind of changes. That's going to be crucial. So we can give you some examples of what that might look like. We're doing a new webcast here, so I'm trying to switch slides. Here, do you guys see Steve, do you see the how to get there slide? I think it might make sense to go here next. Cool.
Yes, that will.
Yeah, thank you. So as you look at leveraging a software platform or a new tool to get production insights, we've identified some key steps that you don't want to skip. I feel like we try to put these in a specific order here, but they're all very critical in their own way. So starting with the bottom, the first step here is identifying your baseline. Where are you at with getting your devices on the plant floor connected? What is the communication protocols? What data do you currently use? What data is currently in front of your operators or your supervisors, and making sure that you're building upon that. You would never want to implement a solution or make a change in your system that took away your feature set. So you just understanding, doing an assessment of the connectivity with your PLCs and the shop floor devices, and making sure that you're making any upgrades to systems so that you can get the data you need. I feel like starting at that assessment step is so crucial. And then similarly, along with the baseline, is being realistic with where you're at in kind of your automation or digital transformation maturity. Um, we've been working in this MES or business intelligence space for close to 30 years here at Flexware, and we've developed a maturity model to help customers kind of gain that awareness or evaluate where they're at. And so I'll switch slides here to that model. It's supposed to be a ladder here, starting at the 0 level. I know a lot of customers, your executive leadership team might be pushing you to optimize your production scheduling and making sure that your process flows and schedules are all you're not overbalanced. So I know that's the goal, but it's important you don't try to skip some of these rungs on the ladder. And so starting with your basic data collection, error proofing along the way so that the data you're pulling from your maintenance system or your quality systems, that is up to date and you've got one single source of truth. I know we'll talk about that later on, but it's just important to evaluate and be realistic about where you're at in this maturity so that you can get the right pieces in place to have good data integrity. Along with being realistic, it's getting the right people in the room to have these conversations and strategize. So more and more companies are building a digital transformation team, kind of right under that like global or corporate level, where that team can help work at the plant level and understand what systems, what processes are in place, what needs in terms of data do the plants have, and then implementing a strategy or a solution that satisfies all those needs across the different plants. So that may look like including folks from your quality, your maintenance. I was just visiting a plant recently where they had an operator that had been with the company for well over 15 years provide some really important insights in a meeting. They had been aware of kind of some tribal knowledge of what it would take on the plant floor, something funky with a PLC, a piece of equipment. And so just looping in the right folks that have intimate knowledge of your processes to be a part of that team to implement the solutions, that's going to be really critical. You don't want to skip having the right people in the room. So a lot of customers talk about, their IT teams, their OT teams, and just getting everyone in the room together. You really want a healthy balance of push and pull. You would never want, your plant floor people pushing for a business intelligence solution that's not also got an equal pull from the executive or the IT teams. And so just making sure that everyone has the same problem defined. We understand the use cases, the problems we're trying to solve, and we're all working together to implement that solution. That's the kind of mindset we're talking about in building your digital transformation team. So I know we want to get into all the data and how these systems might look and feel, but I got to spend some time on this, that team piece of getting the right people involved as you're implementing these tools. Similarly, building the strategy, I kind of hinted on it, but understanding what your problem statement is and how you're going to solve it and the prioritization of that. You got to identify some areas for quick wins, identify your biggest return on investment and, your biggest problem and where you need to solve that and making sure that the system and the strategy you're implementing is ultimately going to address that. Can't miss that step. So I know this is a lot to unpack. It's a lot to bite off at once. And so striving for small incremental enhancements, implementing, systems, automating small parts of your process, that's the way to chip away at this large challenge ahead. So going into real-time status, I see you're getting ready there, Steve. I know from real-time data perspective, just being able to see your current processes, the status of machines, the status of materials, where they're at in production, your levels, that is what's needed to achieve overall excellence. And so what's required is integrating with your IoT devices. We've got lots of different metrics up here listed. that can be pulled from sensors and devices. Um, and so being able to track your spoilage or your scrap, getting that data straight from the equipment, not relying on someone to document that at the end of a shift. That's what we're discussing here. It's connecting right to the PLCs, right to the equipment, so that you can trust the data and you can trend it over time. Similarly, we've got all these contextual process variables. You shouldn't have to dig through or look for a paper traveler. This should be something on display. It should be standardized so that what's going on with your plant or with that line right now, and you can easily monitor and make changes if needed. So I'm excited for you guys to see an example of like a live monitoring dashboard, what that might look like, so that you can easily see, colors and an intuitive display, how that can help visualize your OEE, your production rates. Every company's got slightly different metrics that are going to be crucial for you to track. So just getting some of that up on a dashboard in the plant floor. That's not something you just want in your plant manager's office or on a mobile dashboard. You need that high visibility so that everyone knows the game we're trying to win. And don't forget your quality, tooling, maintenance systems, all of that. If you have it in one clear picture, that's going to give you a full understanding of what you got going on with your production. The
Yeah,
last
and I
thing
think
I'll say about oh, go ahead, Steve. Go ahead.
I was
Thanks.
just gonna say, I think one of the key points that like Ashley brought up too in that first slide was like incremental steps too, right? So, I mean, really when you're planning an implementation, if you're just getting into your kind of digital transformation stage and looking for a product, that's so important because people just want to bite off, like they want everything integrated on day one. They want to see all their data on day one, and it's so critical that you really focus on those critical metrics at the beginning and understand what those are, and then really make sure that you're getting those exposed in a way that everybody can see them throughout the plant. And that might be a different dashboard for your maintenance personnel. It might be a different dashboard for plant floor guys versus engineering and plant managers. So really targeting the correct audience with the right data is what's important. And we see a lot more buy-in with that type of a strategy versus just trying to do everything everywhere all at once. So just kind of wanted to touch on that as something we see with a lot of our customers. So
Yeah. Yep. I'm trying to think of an example, like perhaps your leadership saying we want to optimize line control, and so being able to track changeover times. Just looking at how can we reduce any unplanned downtime. That real time data is going to help with that. Maybe the focus is on improving productivity. Um, leveraging your labor efficiently. And so being able to look at from a KPI standpoint on the plant floor, or having an operator with a tablet or a mobile application, like have that information at their hands to be able to monitor multiple machines or multiple lines at a time, that could really help the bottom line from a labor, productivity standpoint. So whatever the focus may be, figure out that use case and figure out what data you need, what connectivity already exists. Um, yeah.
yeah, and I
Thanks,
think
Steve.
that like
Go ahead.
I think that depends a lot too on your maturity. Like I've had conversations recently with a customer who's like, okay, we're doing everything. I'm like, well, where are you guys currently at? They're like, we're literally doing everything on clipboards, writing down data at the end of the shift, and then that has to be then entered into Excel spreadsheets, and then those Excel spreadsheets have to be managed, and then someone has to come through that data to make sense of it. So, I mean, we have people that range from that end of the spectrum to, oh, we already have a system in place and we're collecting every piece of data from the plant. We have sensors all over the plant. All of our support equipment is being monitored, and maybe they have all that data, but then they don't really know what to do with it, or they don't have like an intuitive reporting solution. So the needs of those two different customers are going to vary greatly when you're looking at a solution. I think at the end of the day, you're looking for the same things. It's just kind of where you're starting at, and it's going to really change your implementation process and what the key focus areas should be early on. So
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like, say you've got all that connectivity, but you're not proactively monitoring. So, like, leveraging something like an alerting system, um, that is so crucial, to be able to proactively monitor any process deviations. We've got I've seen some really neat tools out there, and we've got some different solutions that have highly configurable alerting and events. And so, being able to filter out noise, I put that up here. Oh my goodness, I don't know if you guys have ever received like 100 emails in a minute or two span. Once that happens a couple times because an alert's not set up correctly, you start to ignore that data. You're not doing anything with those alerts, and or if it's not relevant to you. So just being able to configure those events and the alerts. Um, Again, there's some really neat tools out there with escalation trees and protocols, different communication where you can notify people via Teams, mobile, whatever it is, email. But you need some flexibility with your alerting system so that you can really take advantage of the data you're collecting.
yeah,
Steve, would
absolutely. And
you?
I think, yeah, I was just going to touch on alerting. Like, I mean, a absolute prime example of how not to do it is like the other day I was getting, I think it was just their system was broken, but it was like USPS, the postal service, and like I was literally getting text messages from them every 15 minutes for like 2 days straight that my package had arrived, and yeah, so you don't want to do it that way. But it's really critical to have a strategy laid out ahead of time. It's because it's very easy to just start adding alerts. Like everybody's weighing in, they're like, oh, I want to see this, and oh, when this happens and this happens, I want to see this, and if this is out of spec, I want to know right away. So it's like really easy to get excited about alerting and think about how powerful it is, and then just start implementing things. Um, but really, what we see is if you can really sit down and form a strategy ahead of time, um, you're so much farther ahead to be able to do that. Because once you've unleashed the beast, so to say, like once you've unleashed it and you have a ton of alerts, like the minute you do that and people are getting things too often, or the wrong people are
Not
getting the wrong
relevant. Yeah.
messages, or it's not that big of a deal and I keep seeing this alert come up. Like the minute that happens, then everybody just kind of shuts off and starts ignoring it. So that's where we like with alerting, I think one of the most critical things is really the planning process ahead of time to make sure um, that you're delivering the right information to the right people at the right time.
Yeah. Steve, could you show some examples of, I know we've got some different dashboards of like showing this live data, and some of the key indicators or ways that just like what an intuitive system might look like.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's jump over to our real-time client. So this tool just happens to be Acumence, and what we're showing here is our web-based real-time client. And so when we're looking at tools and we're talking about real-time data, I think one of the first things people think of is, like if you're a plant floor guy, you're thinking about HMIs. If you're maybe a plant manager, you're thinking about dashboards on a monitor in your office. But a lot of those things can be accomplished through a tool that allows you to customize your dashboards with the data that you want to see, um, allows you to build your plant floor layout, have things shown in a way that's intuitive to everyone within a plant, or maybe even to someone from corporate or engineering that's coming into a new plant, that they can understand where things are, what the process flow looks like, um, as well as just having that data in real time. Um, that's something you want to look for. So like I said, we're showing Acumence here, and this is just an example of of a two-piece beverage can facility. So um, screens like this show, uh, obviously this is kind of a demo of the immense amount of data that you can show on a screen. So, I mean, something like this is just you want to get a at a glance view of your plant, and I think a lot of times I talk to plant managers, they love this view because they um, those guys always want to know what's going on all the time, and this is a great way to really just get a feel really quick of how are things going, like how are we looking, what's our current shift production? So like in the middle, we have our production for the shift. We can see are we on track? Are we not? Um, and then as well as any types of equipment failures or line backups, it just really gives you like kind of that high level picture of what's happening right now in my plant.
Yeah, all the movement, the colors, the indicators, it all just from an untrained eye, it makes it clear where your attention might need to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think kind of the next thing that I like to see or that I like to touch on is okay, like I said, this is an immense amount of data. It's a ton of data, and it's really just meant to kind of see at a glance how is the whole plant doing. So if I'm looking at this and I see maybe one of the body makers, we have a short can tear off detected. So um, something that I like in a system or some I like to design these systems is I really love like drill through capability or drill down capability. So you kind of start with the high level picture and then you can zoom into more detailed work cells, processes, or even individual equipment. So if I click through into my body maker, we can see, okay, here's some more details. We've had a short can tear off for the last 13 minutes. That machine's been stopped. Just really looking at the hourly production throughout the day, we can see this machine has not been doing well. So I'm going to want to get maintenance guys on that problem right away. I want somebody out there investigating what's going on with this machine. So, a lot of the things that help you do that is your um, event tracking. And one of the ones that I really like is like this downtime graph. I can see, over the course of the shift, what's been going on with that machine. It's been up and down, but you can see it's been down a ton today. So again, that's just telling me I really need to get somebody on there on the plant floor to take a look at that. I know Ashley talked a lot about the types of data that we're collecting, and how we're scoping that. So kind of talking about collecting those critical pieces of data first. And I think we've kind of talked about machine status, and knowing the events or the states that a machine is in at any given time, and having that context within your plant is, in my opinion, one of the most critical things, especially when you're looking at like bottleneck analysis. So like you're trying to figure out where some inefficiency is coming from, or why one machine is currently stopped or isn't running, or maybe is running in low speed. Um, having that information on its own is helpful. I can say, okay, this machine's maybe it's my body makers here, and these are all not running right now. It's like, well, okay, if you were just to look at one of these body makers, you can see that it's not running. But having the full plant contextual information, so being able to see your entire plant and what's happening, allows you to understand exactly why this machine might be stopped. And, it could be something down the line that's causing that. So like you can see here, while we have a washer that's um, our washer is experiencing an issue right now. So, that really at a glance explains the situation of why your body makers are down, and maybe your conveyors are full, and so we're just backed up and don't have anywhere to put the product. So this is one example, like these high level overviews, giving you a ton of information, kind of fire hose. And then I talked about, um, you know, uh, boiling that down to, okay, distilling this down to what are the things that I care about. And like, that's going to depend on who you are, what your role is. Um, and I think having a tool like, I think having tools that put the right information in the right people's hands, I keep saying that, but it really is so critical. And so like tools like mobile applications that, allow you to access plant data at more of a customized level. So, um, if you have a tool that can show dashboards like this, okay, the plant overview, this is something your plant manager might really care about. He's got this on his mobile device. He can see immediately our spoilage rates and what the production is for the current shift, and you know, maybe what the potential production is, or you're looking at like OEE numbers and saying, what, why are we not producing right now? So like that's going to be a quick at a glance for like a plant manager or something like that. And I think tools like mobile application, like we talked about alerting, being able to target specific audiences with specific data is so crucial. So that's just another example of a tool that can really provide more detailed information. Maybe you're like a maintenance tech on that really just cares about the printers, or like you work on the back end, you're one of the plant floor guys working on the back end. You could have mobile dashboards like this where you're just seeing information that's pertinent to you. Like, okay, I really only care about how the printers and neckers are running right now on that back end of the line.
Yes, Steve,
Um,
you're hitting on all the importance of that real time. I don't know if you've got more to show on this, but just like what you're painting the picture here is real time is critical, but also that historical data analysis, like being able to go back and look at trends of that data that you collected in real time. Let me know when you're ready to shift to that content, but you've got some good examples here so far.
yeah, absolutely. And I know like I've been showing kind of from a can making perspective, and just to throw out another example of what some of these things might look like. We've talked a lot about like specific production data. Um, and again, there might be, from a high level perspective, those are maybe the things that certain people care about, but another audience might care more about specific sensor data from different areas throughout the plant. So in this example, we're looking at a battery cathode manufacturing process. Um, but again, using Acumence as the tool, but really it can be um, any solution that has the ability to show you your data how you want to see it. So in this example, we have a bunch of different sensors and data that they're presenting with their own custom KPIs. Um, am I showing my battery
No, not yet. Go ahead
screen?
and I think
Oh,
you got to
okay.
accept. Sorry about that.
Gotcha. Okay, this will make more sense to you guys then. So,
Yeah, that looks good.
yes. So this is another just example. You can see like there's a bunch of different sensor data up here, right? So, um, being able to see a trend of that data over time, we can kind of get an idea of what's happened. Again, this is a real-time view of data, but with a little bit of historical context added in, just to understand what's been happening maybe throughout the day or the shift or maybe the last hour. Um, and then I think like, just if you just had all these numbers up here without any information
Real
about, well,
content.
how am I doing, or how am I doing compared to past data? That's where like KPI indicators like these, okay, I'm down 7% right now, or I'm up 5%, Just little things like that um, in your dashboards can really help bring the data to life and give it more meaning than just a bunch of useless data that's hard to understand. Um,
Yeah, I'll
so
echo that. I think it's a mix of having that real time and historical to be able to empower you to make informed decisions. A data point is only as valuable once you understand in the full context of what does good look like. What's the game we're trying to win here? So I totally agree.
yeah, absolutely. Um, I know we kind of started talking about historical data a little bit. Um, I know just as we're talking about the different types of data that we're integrating into a solution like this, and I know we talked about alerting, we talked a little bit about quality systems. That might be kind of another good segue, like something that I could show, just to give you an idea of like what some integrations might look like. So like we've talked a lot about getting like sensor data like this kind of stuff that you're seeing now directly from your machines. And a lot of plants, even if they're fairly immature, are going to have a fair amount of data like this coming in. But they may not have that level of maturity where they're really integrating all their different systems and data yet. Um, so I was just going to show like really how powerful that can be with another example. Um, and this example is of quality data. So again, um, we're seeing another type of plant overview screen, and it looks a little different than the previous example of like a two-piece can manufacturing facility, and we're showing an ends facility here. So um, you'll notice like these big Q icons, and those are representing those are basically alerts like we talked about. But we're using that alerting system to show an indication on our dashboards. So, you know, these could also be emails, SMS messages, however you think that data needs to be delivered to the right people. But in this case, it's really easy to show it as kind of an on-screen alert. So again, with the full context of your plant, you can see, okay, here are all the areas that we're having quality issues right now. And we talked about this data is coming from an external system, so that might be, every customer's got a different quality system they might use, but typically there's, some sort of software system that we're using to execute tests, store test data, and again, depending on the manufacturing process, that can look very different on the types of tests you're running, statistical analysis, and some of those things as well. So um, at the end of the day, being able to get that data out of your quality system and somewhere that it's visible to to the plant is super important. So in this case, again, like I talked about, I like to drill down. I like solutions where you can see the high level problem and then drill down to further understand it. So in this case, we've implemented a system where you can drill through, you click on the icon, and this one's not a live demo. These are some screenshots of a system. So as I scroll through, you can see you can drill into now. We know liner 15 had quality issues, and I can actually see what those exact issues were. So we're having an issue with, we have a test that failed. The result from that test was a 24, and it needed to be between 16 and 22. So a maintenance operator or someone on the plant floor can actually go to that equipment, see exactly what the problem is, and determine whether they need to stop the line or just um, pull more product for additional quality review. So super powerful, and just another example of like how you can pull not only like specific production data, but other supporting systems like quality systems in.
Yeah, I like that example. If you go back to the, I think it was the overview screen you were on, I like that because it just really shows how every plant, every floor should have its own look and feel to match your processes. You know, this system was built and implemented around how they work. I know this customer, and so the icons and the systems that they needed to integrate, the data they needed on display, they did a really good job of identifying that up front and making sure the system met their needs. So just don't ever, I'm encouraging the audience here to never give in on or try to fit your process into a black box. You want to make sure that the product is configurable, the solution that you're going to implement is going to work the way you all work.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing I really like um, about a system like this. So we're seeing like clearly there's been a lot of upfront thought about, all of the metrics are displayed on this screen, and we're not just showing metrics, we're showing, again, okay, we see some spoilage that's red, spoilage that's green. There's definitely some thresholds and set points that they're using um, to
Hmm.
really give an indication. Is this bad? Is this good? What's standing out? Obviously, right now, um, maybe this needs to be tweaked a little bit. Maybe everything really is that bad. But those are also like the questions you need to ask. Is continually reevaluating your KPIs to make sure that they still apply as your performance improves, or hopefully it's improving. But maybe you just started out and you started out with a little bit too tough of goals. So like in this case, we're seeing a lot of red on the screen, and that's maybe becoming a nuisance because red's not going to really stand out to you anymore on all these data points if everything's red. So just kind of another plug that no matter what software you have, you're going to need to continually improve, continually reevaluate to make sure that your rules, alerts, and all of those things are staying up to date and valid. So.
Yep, I was on mute there. Yes, absolutely, Steve. Good points. And similarly, I feel like it very much relates to what we're talking about here. That historical reporting, being able to run the trends. You were talking about comparing shift data, but just depending on the audience and who's using that data, being able to customize your reporting. I think it's so critical if you've got multiple plants making different products, being able to pull that data into a centralized kind of enterprise reporting level, where you can manipulate the data at that level. That's so crucial too, and that's only possible when you're able to customize your reporting. So, um, we can give countless examples of metrics when you track the trends over time, kind of the insights and the changes you can make in your process to help with your bottom line. It just really helps with that root cause analysis that Steve was talking about a little bit ago. And similarly, like if you don't have a good chart or a graphic that tells a story, that gives you a real quick picture. You can look at that chart and understand, are you in the red? Are you in the green? Are you above target? Are you below? Where are you at? Those visualizations is what's really, really powerful with business intelligence. And so making sure that whatever solution you implement, you're not spending all that manual effort to build and consolidate your data and get it into the charts and graphs that you want. That can and should be automated if you integrate at the plant floor level. And if you're collecting the data at the real time, like we've been talking about, then you can use these data visualization tools to help. We can cover this last point, the predictive analytics, as we're walking through the data, if that's okay with you, Steve. Do you have some examples of reporting and historical trends?
Yeah, absolutely. So, something I like to again really focus on with reporting solutions. Um, I think it's one of those things you can spend a lot of time developing a solution. Every customer I talk to, even every group I talk to within a customer, or every plant I talk to, everybody wants to recreate the wheel. Everybody wants, to see some specific piece of data in a different way. So um, I think it's super important to have a reporting system, a reporting layer that can that's super flexible. And I'm a big fan of like having the data mart or data warehouse style reporting. Um, the cool part about having a specific reporting database that's built with the correct schema in mind is that you can really plug in any number of tools. So, um, we're a big proponent of Microsoft's Power BI product. It's one solution that you can plug um, into a star schema reporting database and like quickly and easily. I think it's a fairly intuitive product to, if you have a well-built data model, you can point it at that data model and you can drag and drop, um, really quickly get visualizations and customization. So maybe you do have a good starting point and you have a base that you want to use for your entire enterprise, but you know a a plant wants to look at something just a little bit differently. These tools allow them to make small customizations, like their own team can do that. So you may not need to get IT involved. You may not need to get external contractors involved, and you can do a lot of those things yourself. It puts a lot of the power in the hands of people within a plant. Um, but again, I think it is important to keep that kind of enterprise strategy in mind. So if all of your plants and uh, all of your plants and groups are reporting things in the same way, it makes it that much easier to compare across plants. Um, Not to mention cheaper and quicker to implement a solution. If you're keeping things consistent between all your plants, it's a big opportunity for cost savings, not having to reinvent the wheel again and again and
Mhm.
again, and then paying to keep those things in sync and up to date. Um, I think another thing I see a lot of is things like Excel. A lot of people I talked about before, like if you're collecting data on clipboards and importing to Excel, or maybe you have a great tool, but in order to get the data massaged the way you want it to build a particular report, you're having to put it into Excel and cut and paste, move things around, or you got a bunch of macros doing all kinds of work to get the data the way you want it. um, those solutions can be great because they're offering you the ability to quickly customize, but the biggest thing with that type of solution is just the maintainability of it. And it's again and again you see people trying to implement solutions like that, and it just becomes a headache of trying to keep things up to date, or somebody requests new data and everything breaks. So um, I like to look for a solution that's going to be it stays in sync automatically. It's up to date.
It's
I mean,
that
I know
single
a
source of
lot.
truth. It's that single source of truth. You're not relying on a bunch of different, it's pulling from the equipment you verified, you've error proofed. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And all that data needs to be contextualized, obviously. Like you need to be able to have um, consistent contextual data about your plant. So, that
Would you
being
have, would
said,
you have, yeah, I was about to say, would you have an example of like I'm trying to think of historical data, watching a trend over time and how you could implement or like forecast, you could kind of predict when tooling might need changed or something like that.
yeah, let me, I know so I'll show some specific examples. I don't have a specific example of like predicting tool changes, but it is something that we've done, worked with a lot of customers to implement. And um, really for things like, we talk about AI and predictive analytics and things like that. And I, while I like those things, I think it's important not to lose sight of um, a lot of the awesome things that you can do by analyzing historical trends, and um, a lot of times that just needs to be surfaced, or there needs to be some rules and parameters put into place, and you can do a lot of that without um, needing to have like machine learning and all these buzzwords. But while those are great things, I think it's also important to remember that you can do some really cool stuff if you have access to the data. So like an example uh, for like tooling changes is we've we've integrated our reporting solutions with um, historical tooling data. And what that allows you to do is start to form rules. Like you can look at a particular piece of tooling in like a body maker. And if we're collecting the right data at the shop floor, like things like stroke counts, we can start to get an idea of um, at X number of stroke counts, we're starting to see a lot more of these particular defects. And then you layer that with like historical tool change data, and you can see, well, typically you know, when it when we've had to change tooling or, take something to um, uh, to get machined, um, if you're tracking all of that in a tool control system and then you're integrating that data with your production data, uh, your defect data, and things like stroke counts, you can say based on historical changes, and you're at 80% of the typical strokes that this body maker runs at before it needs a tooling change, and you're starting to see an increase or an abnormal short can rate, that can be a proactive way to predict a tool change and say, hey, um, we should get this changed uh, before we start to lose too much due to quality. So, like I said, I wish I had a good example. I don't on this demo
No, but I
environment
mean,
right now have
you just
that.
think about, yeah, you just think about how you would leverage like alerting, a dashboard, the historical reporting, how you'd be able to do that analysis if you get the right tools in place. So bringing it back to the discussion we had about identifying your strategy, that's all going to help you in making sure that you get your biggest return on investment in implementing these solutions.
And I actually did just pull up an example. I forgot I had this. So this is an example of like an alert. This is an email that our alert system sent out based on this is a tool maintenance alert. So it's saying, um, first of all, it's making it quite obvious that there's a tooling issue where it's at. Front end one, body maker 102. It's giving us some contextual data to say, okay, I'm an expert on tooling and I'm an expert on the body maker. Let me kind of determine if this really is a valid alert, if there really is something that needs to be done. So I'm going to look at, okay, I got 24 short cans. We have estimated tool life remaining is 15%. And then maybe some other like, what's some of our OEE, like what's our production efficiency right now? And okay, our spoilage rate is up from what I know is normal. So, our system might suggest, or a system that can contextualize all this data will be able to suggest to you things like, okay, we have a high number of body maker short cans that have been detected, and the remaining tool life is below 15%. This indicates typically that a tool change might be necessary. Um, and then again, that drill through thing that I like to talk about, driving action. You know, you can if your alerts can also drive you to learn more, I always think that's a good thing. So like things like being able to drill in than to a particular dashboard that's going to tell you more about what's happening on the plant floor or on that specific body maker. And I guess I'm going to I know we're kind of starting to run out of time here. I got talking and haven't really had a chance to kind of show you the types of things I'd look for in kind of back to that reporting solution. Um, and we were talking about ad hoc reporting and tools like Power BI. Um, so just wanted to show off like a few things here. Um, you know, I think a dashboard like this one, I've had this up for a while now, so you guys have probably been looking at it, but um, I think these types of dashboards are great for like an executive level or end of shift meetings where you really want to see some trends at a glance, like how are we doing compared to, in this case, month to date. So we have our, current day's production. Um, but again, what's happening today, you might know what it is, and that's a good thing to see what's happening today, but without historical data to compare that against, what does that really mean? So um, I love these types of trends where it's showing you, like last 30 days or like this report. I mean, I can go back years and months, like look at any month from, the last 10 years or something, and compare how we're doing today. So same thing kind of goes like we got production numbers or, we talk a lot about OEE. Everybody's, always hammering OEE numbers. And so being able to see how your plant is doing over time, how you're trending, are things, are you making improvements or maybe you did make some particular improvement and you want to try to track, did that actually, well, was that an improvement or did that actually hurt me? Because some other unforeseen circumstances. So um, again, I really like these trends that look at like the last 30 days, things like that. Um, I think another one that I really like to see, and especially in like a can making plant, I like to see um, these kind of heat maps of what states my machines were in over time. So it's a good way to kind of identify bottlenecks. And I think it's really cool when you can not just look at one machine at a time, but be able to compare. So like in this case, I'm looking at like the substates of this machine. So this is going to be like was I running in low speed? Was I running normally, or was there, in this case, it's a standby backup, which usually indicates that a conveyor is full or another machine down the line has been stopped, and that causes the whole process to back up. So being able to see things like from body makers to decorators to neckers overlaid for the same amount of time um, really helps you to like correlate issues from one machine to another. And that's when you can really start to um, do some powerful analysis on efficiencies and bottlenecks and things like that. Um, One last type of report that I'm super big fan of are Paretos. Um, and it's probably something that everybody has seen before. And I know in the past we've had a lot of like Paretos where it's just showing, okay, what's our biggest problem? Um, I think being able to, again, I keep harping on like the drill through, but I like to start at a high level on things and like then get into the nitty gritty. So um, I really like solutions like this where you can look at a high level. Okay, so I'm filtered down to my body makers, but I'm looking at body makers for the last 30 days. So in my first Pareto, uh, I'm looking at the machine grain. So like what body maker has been causing the most issues? Okay, I can see that's body maker 21. That's cool. So if I click on that, I can get down to, okay, now my second Pareto is substate level. So what's been my biggest issue um, for bodymaker 21? So, okay, maybe it's faults. And then, you click on fault and then you get down to the actual event level, and I can see, okay, emergency stops were the biggest issue, and for that machine 21, bodymaker 21. So really like to be able to drill down into that, and then maybe I can actually, go to like a raw event analysis report or something like that and see, okay, what were the actual emergency stop events that occurred? When did those occur? Maybe I can cross reference those with some other events that were going on within a plant. But anyways, I think you guys can see like how powerful having all this data contextualized and then having it in one source of truth, where you're able to build ad hoc reports, you're able to look at pre-built dashboards, and you know that all that data is coming from the same place, it's accurate, um,
It takes the
and you're able
guesswork out
to,
of it. There's
yeah,
no like, well,
yeah,
I feel like it's the body makers. I think whenever this happens, then this. There is no, you're able to pinpoint and use the data to implement a fix. And then you're moving on to the next problem to solve.
yeah, absolutely.
Hey, Ashley, thanks for kind of tying that together. I think we're going to have to go ahead and wrap it up here. We did have a couple questions come in, but I'm going to just hold those off and we'll send those to you guys offline, and then we can respond to participants offline as well. So, Ashley, thanks, and Steve, thanks for not only your expertise, but just taking time to share that with us today. Really appreciate your willingness to share that. As mentioned, the software that Steve was using is something that we created called Acumence, designed specifically for can manufacturing, and we can use it for battery manufacturing. Really, anything that's a high speed, high volume type manufacturing process. This tool is great for business and production intelligence. So what I wanted to do is, if any of you are interested in seeing how customers have actually implemented, not just Acumence, but really any type of business intelligence tool, we've got a couple of case studies that I'd be happy to send to you, our friends from Ball, and then we've got another case study that we just recently published. So I put my email address on here, dwayne.butcher@flexware.com. Just send me an email. I'll reply back to you with a PDF of these two case studies. So again, thanks, Ashley, Steve, thanks so much. And thanks to everyone who tuned in here live, and thanks for all of you who are watching this on demand. Thanks and have a great day.